to the Gen X Remix, Midlife Laughs and Next Acts. I'm your host, Tabatha Jones, also known as the Corporate Escape Sherpa. If you're wanting to plan your corporate escape, or maybe even advance your current corporate career, be sure to check the show notes, connect with me, and grab one of my free resources so we can get you moving toward your bold next act. Friends, my question for you today is the key to a happy marriage deep conversations, mutual respect, or simply being able to agree on the best shopping strategy at Walmart? Well, today we're diving into marriage, friendship, and what it takes to keep a relationship strong after decades together, beyond just saying, I do. My guests, Byron and Margaret, have been married for 27 years, which basically makes them relationship pros in a world where people struggle to commit to even a simple weekend plan. They are the hosts of the Beyond I Do podcast and authors of Unlocking Forever, 10 Keys to a Successful Marriage Beyond I Do, a book born from their podcast and real-life lessons, from parenting to career pivots to turning Walmart trips into date nights. We've all done it, haven't we? They've mastered the art of keeping marriage fun, even when life throws its curveballs. So if you're ready to hear what friendship, humor, and intentional love look like in action, grab a coffee and let's roll into this episode. Byron and Margaret, welcome to the show. All right, Byron and Margaret. Margaret, thank you so much for joining us today on the Gen X Remix. How are you?
We're good.
Doing
Thank
great.
you for having us today. We're excited to be here.
Yes.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. As we were prepping for the show and kind of talking about different things in the generations, I got really excited about our conversation and what we're going to be covering today. So I always like to jump in by asking you to tell us about your remix.
All right, I'll tell it. I'll start. So we have been married for 27 years, and there is no probably. It was in 2022-ish. He approached me. We had been, right after the pandemic, social media starts to really blow up. You have TikTok and all this stuff. And I had been looking into some things in terms of career changes, and he started looking into some things, and he came up to me and he said, why don't we do a podcast about marriage? And our thing was, we're a real couple. We were young when we married. We've raised kids, and we wanted to share how we navigated through marriage. He tells people that he didn't think I would agree to it because I am very introverted, but I shocked him and I said yes. But I am also a planner / procrastinator. So we planned, we bought equipment, and it was about a year or so before we finally recorded that first episode and posted it. And from that point, we started to kind of pivot with things and let's see where this could take us. We started officially in January of 2023. And that first season, we talked about our marriage and how we did everything. And in the next January 2024, we started to invite guests on. And our guests were different areas of expertise because we figure we want to be the best individual in order to be the best partner for your partner, the best individual for your partner. And so we met all types of people, and they started saying, have y'all thought about writing a book? Have you thought about coaching and all these things that we had not, in fact, thought about?
Right.
And so that's when that mindset switch kind of changed. And it was the podcast growing into a book that we did write and publish. And we have trained to become coaches, and we're about to start that journey. So we're hoping that this will lead us into our next phase of life so that we can help other couples who want to strengthen their relationship.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing and so needed. When we think about Gen X, I'm
Hmm.
54, right? Most of us got married younger in our
Hmm.
20s, and so much changes through the journey. And it's important to have support like the two of you are offering to kind of help navigate some of those things because I definitely am not who I was 30 years ago.
Right.
I don't know if I would even
Right.
recognize her, right? But sometimes
Right.
we just forget who we even are at this point, and it
Mm.
adds complexity, not just for us as an individual, but complexity in the relationship. So,
Right.
Yes.
Right.
absolutely love it. So, tell me a bit more about this book that you wrote. So, how is it designed and how is it helping the world? Oh,
So we we still, and it's
Yeah,
been,
for real.
let's see, it hadn't quite been a year yet. It'll be a year in
Yeah.
June, but we still sometimes I'm like, we wrote a book. It's called Unlocking Forever, 10 Keys to a Successful Marriage Beyond I Do. And our podcast is called the Beyond I Do podcast.
Mm.
And the book is based on our first 10 episodes. And so each section aligns to those 10 episodes where we break down our marriage and how we handled parenting and finances and extended family and things like that. And then at the end of each section, there is an action step or a key for other couples to incorporate into their marriage. We don't necessarily advocate that couples do exactly what we've done, but we advocate doing things that work for you,
Yeah, exactly.
that work for you.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything
that's
to add? You have anything to add, sir?
I would just like to say that it was kind of strange, and when you said something about the book,
Both froze.
the
You
other
did.
day,
It was kind of fun to watch. I
Mhm.
was like, oh, I
the
also
other,
wrote a book and I still am the same. I almost always forget to
yeah,
tell
yeah,
people, I get it.
It's a
it's
surreal
surreal.
thing.
Like, and then what was funny the other day, we were actually on a meet and greet with a couple that we're interviewing, and they were like, "We got the book," so they held it up, and it was like shocking. Like, oh my gosh!
And then they were talking and they said, like you all, we think that the foundation is friendship and this, that. And I'm like, they read it too.
Yeah, yeah, they actually read
So
it. Yeah,
that was it's just a very surreal
yes, it
thing.
is.
Um our kids, when we first got them, of course, we ordered several copies and we had them laid out on the table, and the kids would kind of walk by and look and roll their eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
There they are again.
Oh, those kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. The interesting thing, and I don't know why authors do it, but it's kind of a big deal, but we tend to brush it under the rug a little bit.
Hmm.
But somebody
Yeah.
gave me a stat once that said only 10% of people who ever say they're going to write a book do it.
Oh,
So that means
wow.
90% of people who thought it was a good idea, they just someday, someday, someday,
Hmm.
and one day might regret that. So
Right.
congrats to both of you on that huge
Thank you.
accomplishment.
And to you as well.
Yes.
Well, thank you. So you mentioned friendship, the role of friendship in marriage. So what do you believe is the role of friendship in marriage?
I believe that in order to have a um, happy, healthy marriage, you have to be friends. That's the key. You know, people always say communication. People always say, just, but the communication part is when you are friends with your mate, it helps you communicate better.
Mhm.
And that entails trust, that entails breaking down barriers. It also entails giving your partner grace to grow. Like she mentioned, we were very young when we started out. So, there were some of those teenage mindsets that we had to kind of swap and learn to be adults because, nobody teaches you how to be an adult. Did you say, hey, you're grown, you go out there in the world and do you. And nobody
Yeah.
teaches how to be an adult. So that transition from teenager to adult is kind of a crazy time. And we experienced that together, along with a child. So, you know,
Right.
but our foundation was friendship from the beginning. We met each other in high school, and we were friends anywhere from 5 to 6 years before we actually got married. We were platonic friends. Well, we call ourselves dating, as teenagers, but I was trying to be, as the old term, player, and got found out about, and I was just happy that she decided to continue to talk to me at least.
I can imagine as friends, she knew a lot of your stories that,
Yeah. So,
yeah,
over
so
the
good.
course of the years, we went through, just, she went off to school, she would come home, we would get together, have lunch or dinner, just talk, catch up. We were part of each other's lives in that manner. And once we decided to, well, I don't know if we decided to.
There wasn't a decide to, it just kind of moved from, we're friends. We were hanging out every day.
Yeah.
It went from the friend groups being together to just the two of us would start hanging out.
Yeah,
and we were together almost every day. And at some point, the lines began to cross and blur. And by December of 97, we got married on the 13th and had our son on the 20th. So we went from we went from single and carefree to married with a child very quickly.
Yeah. And I think that is that friendship foundation that made it, even in that critical time is transferring from a teenager to adult, made us say, you know what, regardless of anything, I want my friend at the end. So it made those arguments become a lot less dangerous, or made those discussions, I had to reflect and I had to think, okay, at the end of this, I want to make her happy. So, that's my friend at the end of the day. So it just made walking away a lot harder. It made, those decisions, typical people go through where they just, well, I'm going to leave the house for a couple of days and get my mind going. I couldn't do stuff like that. So.
Got it. So how many children do you have?
So we have 4 children. During that year before everything changed, I remember us riding around, and it was a cute conversation at the time. Oh, when we get married, we're going to have 2 birth children, and then we're going to adopt a ton of kids, and we're going to foster kids. And it was so cute then. And then we followed through after having our 2 birth children, and we adopted a teenager. She was 14. Wow. And she told us from the very beginning, she said, I don't want you to adopt anyone else.
And she made sure that.
And we were like, oh, it's just an adjustment phase. And she made certain that we did not adopt anyone else. And so that was a rough time for us. She ended up running away for a few years. And at 21, she popped back up and she called and she said, Dad, I want to come home. And I have a baby.
Yeah.
And so we went thinking that we were going to pick her up and help her become a mom and get her settled in that role. And that was not the case. We ended up adopting the baby and not expecting that at all. Yeah. And then when the baby turned 8, she decided, she said, I think I'm ready. And we certainly were ready. Yes. And so she's now with her birth mom, and we are semi-empty nesters with our 2 birth children. They still live with us.
Wow. What an incredible story. Oh my gosh, you too.
Thank you.
That is incredible. So part of the reason I asked that is I know through, going from that kind of single friendship space into marriage and a baby, into multiple kids, There's a lot of kind of ebbs and flows that go with that. So, what are some things that you did to really continue maintaining your relationship throughout those years? I mean, definitely there had to be some challenges that you just
Mhm.
described. And, life in general, I've raised kids, I get it. There are
Right.
things that change. But how did you make sure that you are maintaining your relationship throughout those years?
It took a lot of checking in with each other, making sure that we stayed intentionally involved each other in our lives. We had to, when we were able to discuss things, especially when it came to the children. Now, some people might think, that's a little harsh, but to be able to tell your partner, look, your child done got on my damn nerves.
To have somebody,
and yeah, I
right.
feel you.
To have somebody to
You
have those
feel
times
you
with.
feel evenly about that feeling. And not that you hate them or anything like that, but that's just the way
But sometimes
and you need to be able to
they
express that,
push you.
you know.
Hmm.
And so, just being able, and one thing we did is once we got the kids in bed at night, that was our time to like just relax. And, we would spend time to just sitting there, whether if it was watching TV, debriefing. She would, be online. I would be online. We would be next to each other, you
Hmm.
know. And that was our time to just, talk about the day. If something happened out, of course, we would reach out to each other during the day with a text or a phone call. If it was something, demanding, or I'd send her a text like, hey, I got to take your son to such and such, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And we just kept the lines of communication open so that we made it through.
We
So
had,
important.
right. We also had a very strong support system. Um, I was my mom's only child. She has since passed away, but when our kids were younger, she was very overly involved. But it was it was nice to have that support there. We had a niece and his sister who
Yeah.
were very supportive, and they would babysit the kids for us from time to time.
Mm.
So we had a support system there, so that we did have those times that we could go on a road trip for the weekend.
Yeah.
Sometimes that road trip was, 30 minutes away just to sit in a hotel room.
And do nothing.
Right. But we did have those moments, and we valued that time. There was never a time where our relationship took a back seat for anything. Our relationship always came first. And as a child who came from I don't want to say a broken home, but I mean that's what it is. Um, I just knew my parents didn't like each other. I knew that very early on, and I didn't like to be around them when they were together, because 9 times out of 10 it wasn't a pleasant thing, and I never wanted my kids to feel that way. I wanted them to understand that their dad and I, we love each other, but we also like each other, and we enjoy each other's company, and so that was important for us always to make sure that relationship was front and center.
Yep. I believe that in order to have a um, happy, healthy marriage, you have to be friends. That's the key. You know, People always say communication. People always say, just, but the communication part is when you are friends with your mate, it helps you communicate better.
Mhm.
And that entails trust, that entails breaking down barriers. It also entails giving your partner grace to grow.
It's human nature. I love you always, but sometimes I just don't
Always.
like you. And it's okay, because sometimes you just don't like me, and that is okay.
Oh my
um,
gosh.
But tell them, I don't like
Yes.
you right now. I know
right.
what you're doing.
And like we were 22 and 23 when we had our son. And so I feel like we grew up with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
There
Yeah.
were times when I would look at him, he's 9, 10 years old, and I'm like, you know what, son? I'm sorry. That's not how that was supposed to work.
Yeah.
Um,
We
so
apologize.
so we were able to tell them things like, I'm not liking you right now, because we were that open with them. and created a space where they were comfortable. I remember when they were younger, my kids, they would get out of the bathtub and they'd walk in the living room still drying off and talking. And I'm like, you don't have clothes on. And I realized, there's a comfort in that.
Yeah.
It's time to put clothes on when you come in the living room.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you're comfortable like that. So they always had that comfort there, and they knew that, that mom and dad love us, but sometimes we're not likable, and that's okay.
It's
That's
funny
okay.
how
Exactly.
it's funny how with the oldest, he used to be like when our daughter was young, he used to be like, she gets all the attention. I'm like, well, because we have to give her attention. She's not as independent as you. So then, fast forward, several years later, when we have the baby that we had to adopt, and the son and the daughter, how come she gets all the attention? Well, because
Right. She's 3. I can't just tell her to go take a bath. I have to take the time, and I have to give her a bath. And we
actually had them on our podcast talking about that one time. And we brought it up, and we were like, now y'all understand what we were saying. I mean, it's not.
And we have it recorded.
It's not loving.
Yes, I understand now.
It's just that I can't just tell this one to just go to your room and go do stuff like I could tell you.
And we have it on record.
That's so good. Exactly. Right. Here it is. Remember these days?
Remember when you admitted that we were right?
You guys were right.
That we made sense.
But it's amazing how you prove them time and time again that you were right, but they still don't want to listen to you.
Oh, no. No, there comes a point. There's that age where they finally hit that point. I want to say Tyler was about, I think he was about 20 when he kind of came to that, I really missed out on all those camping trips you tried to get me to go on. And I really feel like I missed out now. I really regret it. And I'm like, yeah, those times I was trying to tell you one day you're going to miss it and realize.
Your son was that hard-headed too?
Oh, they come that way.
My son, like, it was literally, we had a vacation planned.
I knew you were going.
We took grandma with us. We took our daughter with us, and we took one of her friends because he didn't want to go. Got an Airbnb. And you know what he said? Well, I've been to Florida before.
So initially we were going to New Orleans, and something fell through. So when we were going to New Orleans, he was all for it. But something happened, and I said, well, we're going to go to Florida. And he said, I've been to Florida. Like, it's a whole state. Like, it's a whole state. And so he was so upset when we got back, and he said that we didn't value his, he made it seem like we switched on purpose. And I'm like, son, if we didn't want you to go, we would have said, well, we're going.
And I asked him, I said, well, son, we're going to Jacksonville. I know you said you've been to Florida, but that was
Orlando
on the cruise.
Well, Orlando too.
Different.
So he
Florida that we're going to. Are you sure you don't want to go? No, I don't want to go. I've been to Florida before. Okay, all right.
Oh, as someone who grew up in a family that didn't have much money, if my mom had said, we're taking you on a paid vacation next door, I'd have signed up.
Let me tell you.
I'm in.
we took them on a cruise, and they were 6 and 10. And so Carnival has Camp Carnival for the kids, but they were in different age groups. So his age group was, they did things that were a little more teen leaning than the smaller kids. And so they were complaining about having to go. And then he got upset because they were having a scavenger hunt, but the Camp Carnival people weren't taking the kids around. They were just sending them out. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't trust that. Y'all are going to throw each other overboard. I'm not doing that. So they got upset about that. And finally, he couldn't take it anymore. And he said, look, y'all are being ungrateful. Do you know how old I was when I went on my first cruise? Now, this is my first cruise.
Right? So, when I could pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying not to laugh at him.
Yeah.
But they just, and now I guess there's some, You get some sense of satisfaction when they say, okay, I understand now, but goodness, when you're in the midst of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
We
much.
like with the kids and then just the normal things with work, and they're involved in different activities, and we're trying to do these things, and here you come with this and with the attitude and with this. It just now that they're older, and for me, because of how I was raised, the setting that I grew up in, I was always worried that I was just going to be a horrible parent. And so I was on pins and needles with everything I did with them. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to break them now. If I don't do this right, this is going to mess them up forever. But now that they're adults, to have that relationship, that pivot in parenting has been refreshing, and we can see the humans that they have become, and they're wonderful humans.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm pleased about that. But boy, getting here.
I was
Oh,
I
that's
was
so
the
good.
balancing factor because I'm the youngest of 10 kids.
Oh,
And so I just said, hey, as long as they ain't
They're
knocking over
still
liquor
alive.
stores,
they're going to be all right. Oh my gosh. I used to tell my son all the time.
Done that.
I used to tell my son, I've got 18 years to mess you up. You got the rest of your life to straighten it out.
There
So
you
we're going to
go.
be all
There
right.
you go.
I like
You're going to need something to talk about in therapy.
Exactly.
Might as well
Yep.
be me.
Might as well be me. It's going to be no matter what. So let's just make this a little more fun.
Right.
Oh my
Now,
gosh, so
I
funny.
am Mama Bear, so I'll try and make sure that I'm the reason you're in therapy, not other people. But
Pretty much.
Absolutely.
you need a reason.
That's so good. Oh my gosh. And I remember we took him on a cruise. He was 17, maybe 16, 17. And we just did a little 4-dayer from Jacksonville to the Bahamas. And it was so funny. My husband was like, oh, we're going to have some time together. This is going to be so great. And I tell you, if I turned my head one time and that little blocker wasn't sitting right next to me, and we'd be at the adult pool hanging out. All of a sudden you'd hear a Chase Lounge dragging across. I'm like, how did he get here again?
Yeah. And you're sitting up there like, now, if this was me
Right.
at that age,
Right.
y'all guys would never see me except for dinner and all that stuff. It's just right up under you.
Oh, so good.
Exactly.
So
and our 23-year-old is still, she's still like that. Like, in fact, we were going out to dinner one night about a month or so ago, and it wasn't even her that started it. It was him. We're getting dressed, and they were like, where are we going? We are going to dinner.
Yeah.
What restaurant are we going to? No, you're not coming with us. And he looked at me and he said, just as serious, he said, Mom, we can sit at a different table. Y'all can still have date night or whatever.
This was our anniversary dinner now.
No, it was birthday.
Oh, okay.
So I said, no, we were invited to go with some other couple. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what made it okay for them not to come.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so good.
So
we have the Life 360 app on our phone. So it's nothing for our daughter. You know, we stopped somewhere like this past weekend. We were in Atlanta. My uncle had his 70th birthday party. So there's a little town on the way between Atlanta and us that we used to go to all the time and eat at this particular restaurant on Sundays. So we're there at the restaurant. So we're like, we're going to wait to eat till we get cups and then we're going to eat there. So while we're standing in line waiting to get our plate fixed, she's texting us, oh, you guys are wrong.
Just out of the blue, you didn't have to. And so I was like,
so we got in trouble.
Her little thing that said stalker. And she said, I was checking to see where you were since no one let us know that you were on the way back.
Yeah.
Oh,
right. I'm sorry.
Oh my
so
gosh,
it's an interesting dynamic, but I do enjoy it much more. The pressure is not there. I had so much pressure feeling like I was going to do something wrong and make life miserable for them, and that pressure being gone to just truly enjoy them as humans. That's been a good thing.
Yeah. That transition definitely from child to roommate to
Mm-hmm.
friend that doesn't live with you
Mm-hmm.
anymore is definitely a fun journey.
Right.
Yeah. All the times that I thought I might actually, I don't know, that my son might actually go missing at my own hands in middle school.
Right.
Like it's all worth it now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In middle school, I was like, I literally
Yep.
understand why some animals eat their young. Like I cannot
Seventh
take
Yeah.
this
grade.
Yeah.
another minute.
Yeah.
Seventh grade
So
is when our
good.
son was
7.
lost to the clone. I call him
Yes.
Clone Boy.
Yeah.
My sweet boy was gone at that point, and we were left with the clone.
Oh my gosh.
And that there's a shift in seventh grade. I'm also a teacher, and I taught middle school, and
Oh,
seventh grade is like nothing else.
Both of
they
them.
are
That's
the
it.
worst.
It's like nothing else.
Because the child that we adopted, she went to 7th grade, and that's when those changes started coming, and it was like, God,
It's a shift. And if you can get through seventh grade and when they turn 17, once you get through those two hurdles, it's like, okay, this is getting better.
Definitely. Oh my gosh. So I can tell that definitely humor is a great part of your marriage and your
Absolutely.
relationship. What are some of the other main qualities that you believe drive that successful relationship and marriage? Oh my gosh, so fun.
Like he said, friendship. We genuinely like each other.
yeah,
We spend a lot of time we have some shared hobbies. We'll do little projects around the house. I call him Byron the Builder. He's forever building or creating, fixing something. So from time to time, we have projects around the house. We also take interest in each other's hobbies. So I crochet, and he, like I said, builds and fixes things. And we're going to have to figure something else out now that Joanne's is closing,
yeah.
because where Joanne's is, there's also a Harbor Freight hardware store. And so we would spend time in Joanne's, and I would get to touch yarn and get yarn. And then we'd go over to Harbor Freight for him to get tools. He rides motorcycles, so I'll ride with him. We find time to do those things so that we can see each other outside of being a parent, outside of being a spouse. It's amazing to me to watch him fix something, to see that side of him. When we started the podcast, we kind of naturally fell into different roles. And so there's a respect that comes from that now that we're coworkers in a sense.
Yeah.
And we have to come to each other and be open for critique and for suggestions, and something that, like with the editing and things like that, I know nothing of what he's doing. He shows me, but I don't know. Um, and when I'm doing the graphics and things like that, I show him. But if I ask him to go on there and do something, he wouldn't know. So there's a mutual respect there outside of the relationship because of those different roles.
And another thing that we can do is we try to make fun of our simplest times. Like okay, I can give you an example. A trip to Walmart for the both of us is, hey, matter of fact, we're going to Walmart after our next record. But anyway, so we'll go, I'll grab a buggy. We're going to go by the clearance aisle because every Walmart has a clearance aisle now. So we walk through there, see if it's something that we need that we really don't need on clearance. And then we'll go over by the automotive section. 9 times out of 10, I don't need anything, but I'll walk by there to see if it's, I don't know, some oil I might need or whatever. And then we'll walk by the
Yarn. Yep.
to browse through there. And then we'll go.
And then we start to get what we need to get.
Go through electronics, maybe we need a microphone or an extra headset or something, and then we'll go get the stuff that we need. So that's our typical Walmart route.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. So last time we went together and it was a total random, like, I'm a order it in and just pick it up kind of girl. I don't like to really go in and do the things. I get too distracted. And so we decided we're going. Well, out where I live, everything in Walmart is locked up. Anything you want is locked up in a cabinet and somebody has to come get it out for you. So I was
Right,
like, hey,
right.
let's do this. Let's ring the bell and set a
Mhm.
timer. So we did. And we stood
That sound
there
like
and we
us.
stood there and I hear a bell go off a couple rows over. So we stand there and I'm like watching at the end to see if the worker's coming. The worker went to them first. So I was like, it's okay. The worker is going to get their thing and then come over and get our thing and then escort
Mhm.
us all to the front.
Mm,
That is
nah.
not how it played out. My stopwatch is still going. I walked over and I said, well, can you just get this one thing and we'll just follow you? No, that's not how it works. I was like, all right. We waited, I want to say it was 12 and a half minutes.
Oh,
And then
wow.
we just gave up.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I know I got a store survey. Very unfortunate on Walmart's behalf
There
because I
you go.
actually
There
filled it
you go.
out. Got a call from the manager and I was like, I get your policy, but this is silly. Like it was just one thing, but
Yeah, yeah.
we still laugh about it. We're like, remember that time we went to
Mhm.
Walmart and we pushed the button? Now we just do it online and we pull up and pick it up and they put it in the
Right.
Yeah.
trunk. It's
And
so much
that's
easier.
Our,
But the
now ours
fun
haven't
things, right? The
ours
what?
hasn't gotten to that point yet where everything is
Oh,
locked up, but they have locked
they're starting to they're starting to
Yes,
lock
ma'am.
up more. The makeup aisles, I'm noticing more
Yeah.
things are behind the glass. So they're starting to lock more things up. And I think that at the rate it's going, it might become even more.
Which
They're
I
yeah.
gonna
do
end up
not
locking up the
understand.
eggs.
Okay, I was at Walmart today. I grabbed 5 items. And then I don't know for the life of me, I can't remember. You go to certain stores, I know how this self-checkout works. But I'm scanning stuff and I'm scanning stuff with the little scan gun. And immediately the thing stopped.
Oh,
I did
no.
not recognize, so it recorded an item that I put in the buggy that didn't get scanned. So I'm like, oh, okay. And then I looked on the menu. Oh, yeah, I didn't scan that. I scanned it when I'm hitting with the thing. So it lets you go so many scans with the gun before it alerts the associate. Forgot about that.
There,
Okay,
forgot because that's happened to us
like,
before.
how do people still think that they are that smart enough to get away from that self-checkout? Cameras around you. I don't get it, but
Nothing makes me madder than a self checkout because
I
one,
love
I should
it.
get a discount. I should at least get the bags for free.
See, for me,
I'm like,
I feel like I should be paying them because I love it, because I don't want to talk to anyone. I have my earpiece in. I'm either listening to an audiobook or a podcast as I'm shopping. And when I get to the checkout, I don't have to stop anything. I can just start scanning my items. Now, if he's with me, I have to remind him about the little scan gun because he likes to use the little scan gun, but it doesn't like you to use that for everything. But
the thing about it, if you go to somebody that is at the register, they don't talk to you anyway. So
right. So if you're going to be ignored, it might as well be by the scan.
right. Customer service is what? What is that?
No, how's your day? No, nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing, huh? That's terrible. Oh my
It
gosh, that
is.
is super funny. All right, so we got on this date night. So anyway, so set the timer sometime when you need something, even if you don't need something out of the cabinet, if you've got a spare 12 minutes, just do it. It's
Yeah,
just fun.
yeah, pretty much.
Oh gosh. So tell me about a little more about your podcast. I've listened to a few episodes, but really what inspired you to start it? And yeah, tell us about that. I'd love to get some more listeners over there.
Okay, so we wanted to make a presence on social media. I saw the rise in the TikTok. Everybody was started watching TikTok. I'm like, we ought to we can do that. But I never wanted to just do anything crazy. I wanted it to be something meaningful. And we were talking about it, just doing some individual pages, just like, I can work on the car and record myself and, make a video of it, So I was at home one day watching Steve Harvey's TV show. And so they had a bunch of married couples, people that had been married over 20 years. And the longest couple had been married over 50 years. So they were like, well, how long have you guys been married? How did you guys stay married for over 50 years? Communication. So I'm like, what is communication? I've seen so many shows like that over the years. all of them say communication. Well, what is that communication? I need them to do an entire show on what communication is. So light bulb hit. Like, dang, we've been married. At that time it was 24 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, maybe we can do a podcast and show them how we made it, through our time. And so when I approached her about it, I didn't think she was going to be wanting to do it. She was like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. All right. So then, like she said before, it took us about a year to actually, make a recording. Now we did record one, just play it back, see how it sounds, see how our voices sound. Cause she was like, I don't like the way I sound on recording. I'm like, you're gonna have to get used to it if we're gonna do a podcast. I mean, come on now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were on vacation in the last part of 22?
Mm-hmm.
The last part, last
21.
21, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we recorded, we just recorded our first episode.
Oh, you mean the actual episode?
Yes, actual
that
episode.
was 22.
Yes, 22, right. So we just recorded. We were in Vegas. And at one point in the end, you could hear like a siren.
You can hear a siren in the background.
That's Vegas.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we just recorded it and, took us about another, couple days to press play, upload it and, promoted it on our Facebook pages. And then the rest is history. It just, we started collaborating like, okay, what do we want to share? And so every so often we would have meetings. We started off releasing our episodes every other week due to work schedules and things like that. And then give us time to edit and things like that. So we just started off talking about us and how we navigated, finances, dealing with death. Because by that time, both of our mothers had passed away. Now I lost my father
the year before we married.
Got together. So we talked about that, dealing with grief, trying to deal with every aspect of marriage at that time. So that's where we were, and here we are now, talking to wonderful people like yourself. Hey, learning a lot.
I love it. That's one thing with podcasting is I learn so much from each guest that I speak with and from every podcast episode I listen to. So when I meet new people like the two of you, your podcast list will go, or your podcast goes right on my playlist. So that as I'm getting ready every day, I'm listening to different podcasts, and I love it because it just brings so much insight, positivity. Sometimes a situation randomly will come up and I've been through that situation and I hear a completely different perspective or a different way of handling it. So those podcasts are so valuable. I can't wait to listen to more episodes.
Thank you.
So what's next for the two of you? You've shared a lot about your journey, your book writing, your podcast, all the things. What's next?
We will continue podcasting. We will start coaching couples and creating a community for married couples. There's nothing like support from a couple who they're doing it in a way that you want to do it. And to have that around, we don't have any close friends who are married. Most of our close friends are divorced, single, never been married, and then or widowed. And so we want to have other couples. We want to be able to see happy couples and be able to, do activities and things like that.
Now, we did have a couple that, in our earlier years that they were older than us. They had been married longer, and they had a good marriage. And so we were able to get that guidance from them from a couple standpoint as well, from a single standpoint, because she was able to talk to the woman and I was able to talk to the man, and they became our, they still are our brother and sisters to this day. I call them and be like, hey man, let's go hang out or whatever. But just to have that positive influence, especially in that, like I said, we were young. And, just have that person to say, hey, man, you might want to watch that work wife situation. It's not going to be good for you.
Right.
To be in your ear to say, or when you had a question about something. So that's the kind of advice we want to be able to give to, a young couple, or even, people who have just redoing it again. You know what I'm saying? Maybe some things didn't work out in your first marriage and you're going into a second marriage, you might want to do it right. So we want to offer, our expertise in that area. So
we also have, we are playing around with the idea of a second book,
yes,
a fiction book. We just need the time and mental bandwidth to sit down and work on that. But that was like I said, it's still a very surreal experience. But both of us are wordsmiths. Both of us love words and wordplay and things like that. So
one of our favorite pastimes when we used to go to restaurants, like we would sit in a restaurant and just see a couple at a table. And we would just invent this story about them. Like
scenario, that's what I call it. Scenario.
Yeah, it's like
we'd have a whole life
story, whole life.
We were at the hotel.
He's married, but he's meeting his
right
Terry or whatever.
We were at a hotel. We had like an early flight the next morning, so this was one of the hotels where you have the shuttle to from the hotel to the airport, and we're sitting there that night in the restaurant eating, and these two men walked in, and they're sitting at the bar, and we had two separate storylines going about both of them.
Yep.
And so we figure we might want to get some of that out of our brains and on paper and see what happens. See if anybody else enjoys reading our tales.
Definitely a great idea. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. I thought I was the only one that did that. So thank you for bringing that to light, because I do it. And if I'm by myself, it's in my head about what's happening over there.
There you go. We're the Sesame Street reading rainbow generation. We had nothing but time and imagination. So
imagination. So you use it. So that's what we use.
That's what we do. Yep.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Well, if our listeners would like to connect with you, how would they go about doing that?
You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, the Beyond I Do podcast. Our website is www.beyondidopodcast.com. Email admin@beyondidopodcast.com. And now we'll be on Tabatha's show.
That's right. And all of those links will be in our show notes so our listeners can find you. And I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, what a fun conversation. Before we end, Byron and Margaret, what is one bit of advice or information that you'd like to share with our listeners? And actually, since there's two of you, you can each share one if you'd like.
Okay. You'll let me go first so that you have time to think. Yeah, okay, of course. Let's see.
Now, if he's like me, I'd say that's what I was going to say. Thank you.
Ladies first.
So now if I have this like wonderfully orated speech that I give, think about how you're going to look following that. Okay. So I'll give a simple piece of advice that my daily affirmation that I listen to, part of it says, the way you spend your day is the way you spend your life. And that has been an eye-opening piece of information for me. And it helps me when I get into my moods and I just want to go inward and I want people to leave me alone. I realize that is not how I want to spend my life. So the way you spend your day is the way you spend your life. Keep that in mind.
Love it.
Great. And mine is being intentional about your relationship, being intentional about your time that you spend, being intentional about, being there for your partner. Just intentional. That's my word of the day, word of the year.
Fabulous. Oh my gosh, such great advice. And this was really fun. I would love to have you both back on the show
anytime.
At some point.
Anytime.
especially as you get closer to that second book, because I can't wait to hear all the scenarios you're going to write about.
Anytime.
Anytime.
Oh, well, thank you both. And I hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, what a fun and insightful conversation. Byron and Margaret prove that a lasting marriage isn't just about love. It's about friendship, humor, and sometimes debating on which aisle to hit first at Walmart. If you've loved this episode, I know I did. It was a lot of fun talking to these two. Be sure to check out the Beyond I Do podcast, where they share even more wisdom, stories, and real-life relationship advice. And don't forget to grab a copy of their book, Unlocking Forever: 10 Keys to a Successful Marriage Beyond I Do. Because if they can survive nearly 30 years together, they definitely have some secrets worth learning. Be sure to connect with Byron and Margaret. I'll share their website and all their socials in the show notes. And as always, if you loved today's episode, hit subscribe, drop your 5-star review, and be sure to share this with your partner or friend who needs a little bit of inspiration. Until next time, friends.